So here's the ink and toner cartridges. And again, important to evaluate the ink and toner usage of your equipment before you buy the equipment to make sure you're not getting something that really uses a lot and it's going to be very costly. The remanufactured ones typically cost 30 to 60% less. We just did an assessment for the state of California, and that was consistent with what was on the state contract. So there's actually another opportunity, although if you already have your county contract, then that's already in place, but you could look at that. The county could look at that if they went out to bid again to see if there was any better pricing there. The key thing with the toner cartridges is to make sure that you get strict performance standards, because some companies could cut corners. So there are actually performance ASTM standards for how a toner cartridge needs to be remanufactured to make sure they take it all apart, they evaluate to make sure if the parts are worn, that they're replaced, and so that's important to have the performance standards. Part of the performance requirements also are that if a problem happens, that they will replace it immediately and take care of your printer. What was interesting to me in looking at the state contract is that they required the exact same maximum defect rate for the remanufactured toner cartridges as they did for the original equipment one. And again, you have the opportunity to support local jobs. Require the vendors to take back empties to reduce disposal costs and ask for rebates. What is amazing to me is if I take my one toner cartridge back to the office supply retail store, they give me $3. But I often will find jurisdictions that are sending hundreds, if not thousands, back to be recycled, and they're not even getting a rebate. There are some jurisdictions that are negotiating rebates, either a credit towards the next one or some cash back at the end of the year. So you should ask for that. And again, the high yield cartridges. So it could be that there's some equipment that you have that there isn't a remanufactured option. So your other option, not just for these ink cartridges, is to buy what's called a high yield toner cartridge. And that, again, sometimes has twice, sometimes even 3 times as much toner in the cartridge. I was amazed. It took me a while to figure this out, but I went to the store and, realized that these little things are typically only half filled with ink. You have to get an XL to have this little thing filled up with ink. It's only a few pennies for the manufacturer to fill it up. If you get the ones that have all the different colors and in a pack, you feel like, okay, I'm getting this really great deal, you have to be aware of those because they can sometimes be starter cartridges and only have a quarter of the amount of ink. So increasingly, on the back you'll see here, it'll tell you the average number of pages that the cartridge will do. And so some of the bigger contractors are now requiring this to be printed on the piece of packaging going with the equipment. Look for high yield. So an HP, you said you use HP cartridges. You can find the cartridge that you use. Look for the X, so that way you're getting twice as much ink out of the same cartridge. Okay, so here's another product category that would be considered low-hanging fruit, bottleless coolers. Philip talked a little bit about this earlier. So reducing your monthly water costs 30 to 70% versus bottled water delivery. It's amazing. You can stand outside some office buildings and just different trucks are coming by. It's a huge impact in diesel emissions and fuel usage to buy bottled water. And so some people will just get rid of the bottled water and go directly to the tap. You may want to test your tap water to make sure. And then others will use a filtering system that's called a bottleless filter system. And you can save significant amounts of money. We were evaluating just Santa Clara County's bottled water costs. It was over $100,000 a year just for bottled water. There's also a lot of time that is used changing bottles, especially in larger offices. There's actually an occupational issue of having to lift up the bottles and somebody could hurt themselves, so it's a liability issue. And we have some free responsible purchasing guide to bottled water alternative guides that are available through our website, RPN. Green cleaners are one. Here's an example of a county, Hennepin County, Minnesota, near Minneapolis. Their county medical center switched to green cleaners and to non-corrosive and non-asthma causing peroxide disinfectants and microfiber mops, and they got a reduction in costs, they got a reduction in volume, and they also were able to document chemical injury reductions as well. And they did that through a pilot test. Here's another case study at Harvard Medical School that switched to green cleaners. One of the ways that green cleaners save money is if you actually go in and do a pilot test. I've been in a lot of janitorial cleaning closets. You often will see just dozens and dozens of different products because the vendors drop them off and somebody picks it up over here and that thing over there. And so sometimes you can consolidate. So here's an example of Harvard Medical School. They went from 25 different non-green cleaners down to 7 different kinds of cleaning products. And actually, I have this product because San Francisco Unified School District just got rid of dozens of products and switched to this because they can toggle it at different levels. And at one level, it's a general purpose cleaner, and another, it's a glass cleaner, and then another, it's a sanitizer, a restroom disinfectant, so they can really use one product, and it makes a lot of their training easier as well. But there's a lot of different products out there that can be used. Microfiber mops, are people familiar with these? Have you ever seen these? So a traditional mop, you take the mop in the bucket, and often you have these big heavy metal buckets. You fill it up with water, you put the mop in like this, and you swish it around, clean some of the floor, put the dirty mop back into the bucket of water, then you wring it out, and then you swish it around. And they tend to change out the water when they can't see to the bottom. So you end up with this dirty water that's kind of swishing stuff all over the floor. Whereas with microfiber mops, here's one design where you'd put the cleaning solution, literally goes down the handle, you push something at the top, and the chemical goes down, and you use, I didn't bring it with me because you're gonna see it at the green cleaning workshop, but it has a replaceable mop head, usually a flat mop. It's more ergonomic, so you're not lifting heavy buckets of water. It's not really heavy. Mops the traditional cotton mops can weigh many, many pounds and can also often cause back injuries. And so these are more ergonomic. They're lighter. You can get into the corners. And when it gets dirty, you never put a dirty mop head back into the bucket. You just peel it off, but you do need to wash it. So you need to have an infrastructure for that. But they are cost effective on a life cycle basis. They reduce chemical use about half because you're not taking then all that chemical that's in the water and having to lift it and then pouring it out and then putting new chemical in. It minimizes water use up to 95%, prevents injuries, chemical exposure, back strain, accidents. Also, it gets the floor dry. It's not as wet, so there's fewer slip and fall injuries. And they were designed for a healthcare environment, because in a healthcare environment, you don't want to be taking germs that are in one hospital room and moving it to the next hospital room. That could be a disaster. So they have developed these, and they're rapidly being deployed in schools and office buildings as well. And improved performance, they're showing you get more dirt off the floor. Recycled paint is another product category. We're starting to more and more collect paint, and in California is one of the states where you can bring your paint back to the paint store. Portland, Oregon uses 100% recycled paint, costs about 75% less, meets the same high performance standards, and now can be tinted. There's a lot of products that when they first came out as green, they weren't fully developed, and so you could only get paint is one where you can only get it in a couple of colors. Now you pretty much can get it in any color. And there's 2 manufacturers in California that manufacture recycled paint. One is Visions Paint Company, which is on the state contract, and it's Green Seal certified. Greensill also has performance requirements built into its certification, so they make sure it meets a minimum level of performance. Still means you want to performance test it in your own facilities. Hand soap. Went into the bathroom in here and saw that using a pretty traditional liquid hand soap. So looking at hand soap, and these are some of the specifications we developed in conjunction with Santa Clara County, foaming hand soap reduces soap and water usage about 40% because it's just easier to get off, and so you're not using as much compared to liquid hand soap. Greensill's certified hand soap is less expensive than things like antibacterial hand soap, which antibacterial hand soap has chemicals that build up in the sewage system. They use a pesticide, so you're putting pesticide on your hand. And the American Medical Association has indicated that there's no advantage to using antibacterial hand soap. And I know San Francisco is in the process of banning antibacterial hand soap throughout their facilities, I think, other than their medical facilities. Push-operated hand soap dispensers. We had a little conversation about this. Some jurisdictions have looked at the costs over time and said, you know, we really don't want to have to be paying for all those batteries just to be able to put your hands up and, you know, do that. Especially with hand soap, you're going to push it, but then you're going to clean it off right afterwards, so you don't really need it. So you want to calculate the cost of battery savings, the cost both to purchase the batteries and to recycle of those batteries can be substantial. I want to go into some of the other product categories. Energy efficiency, Energy Star rated refrigerators and appliances. There's a whole website of different products. Here's one where a housing authority put Energy Star rated refrigerators into their low-income housing and saved about $500,000 in energy savings. There's a really interesting new website that I recently learned about that I'm really excited about, and that's called Energy Star Most Efficient. So Energy Star, there's a lot of Energy Star products, and they have to meet a minimum energy efficiency requirement, but within that there's a range. And so Energy Star, which is actually copying a program that came out of Europe called the Top 10. In Europe they have this program where they continually identify the top 10 most efficient TV sets and refrigerators and washing machines, etc. And so if you want to buy something, you can check that top 10 to get the top 10 absolutely most efficient products. Energy Star is adopting their own version called Energy Star Most Efficient. They're not guaranteeing it will only be 10, but they're looking to see where there's a break, and they're saying these are the most efficient among Energy Star. And you could specify those. Philip talked earlier about the EP, Electronic Products Environmental Assessment Tool, and Green IT is something, I think, Julie, you're going to talk a little bit about this for Palo Alto. It's one of the easiest things to do. There's a list of products. All the EP registered products, minimum requirement is that they have to be Energy Star compliant. So you get Energy Star plus no brominated flame retardants, you get recycled content and some other benefits. And there's some calculators that the program has. Here's one. Kaiser, since 2006, has purchased 135,000 EP registered products at saving nearly $5 million a year. And there are a number of jurisdictions, including the federal government, that have committed 95% of their desktops, laptops, and monitors need to be at least EP registered at the bronze level. Ancillary equipment, if you have equipment, you may not want to change it out, but you can look at some of the ancillary equipment, both the power adapters, and so there are some Energy Star rated power adapters that you just plug in to have the power go to that piece of equipment that are 30% more efficient. There's also smart power strips that can shut down at the end of the day so that it's not drawing electricity continually. Multifunction devices, we talked a little bit about imaging equipment, but consolidating different equipment, as I said, so you don't have many different types of equipment. They save time, they can lower energy consumption, they can lower replacement costs and cut paper consumption as well. And there's some case studies of different agencies that have switched to from single desktop printers to these centralized printing systems and save substantial amounts of money. And one of the things, this is from one of our case studies in responsible purchasing, and Philip wrote this case study, and he said there was also some other advantages, meaning that you can put a passcode in, and so there's greater privacy protection and better accounting of who's using what for the different pieces of equipment. So you don't just have some confidential piece of information going to the printer and anybody can pick it up. We talked about race to the top through the best and most efficient. This is sort of a aim for the bottom. So this is like, how do you reduce your consumption of things such as paper? And Seattle has piloted a great program called Paper Cuts, in which they said, we're going to commit to buying all of our paper having at least 100% recycled content. We know that that's going to be more expensive, so to compensate for that, we're going to set a goal of 30% paper reduction so that our overall paper costs don't go up. And so they have established a duplex printing standard. They made sure all of their equipment can do duplexing and is set to do duplexing. And they ended up, they're really close. In 2009, they're at 28% reduction. I guess I need to update this slide to see if they met their goal yet. And they saved about $80,000. Again, duplexing printers can save money, not just on the paper, but on postage and document storage as well. There's several case studies. Here's one, Columbia University just put default onto their computer center, saved $105,000 a year. Paper is expensive and is becoming more expensive, so we need to really look at that. It's important to make sure that the vendors ship the equipment with the default set, so then people have to fuss with it to get it to turn off. LED street lights have a life cycle cost savings compared to traditional street lights, which are high pressure sodium, metal halide. The costs are dropping precipitously with LED street lighting. They're going down about 20% per year, according to the Department of Energy. There's about a 50% energy savings associated with LED street lighting, more if you use dimming. So what they can use, because LEDs can be more centrally managed, you might see now parking lots where either the lights slowly go on and off as the sun goes down and up, or you might see what's called bi-level lighting. So you can set it so that in the middle of the night when nobody's in the shopping mall, it's only on a really low level of lighting, and then if somebody drives into it, then it turns on. And these things that are shaving energy off of street lighting are having significant cost savings for jurisdictions. They last 2 to 4 times longer, just the light bulbs themselves, than traditional. And then they don't do this thing where the light bulb goes on and off and on and off, and then you send somebody out and it's on again. And all of that can just be huge maintenance costs. And sometimes somebody will call up and report, okay, our light's out. They go out, they send somebody out there, and then it goes back on again, and they just go, forget it, we're just going to take everything off on the street because we don't know which light bulb it is, or they don't do it and then they have to go back again. Whereas with LED street lighting, you have a central computer. It will tell you immediately when a light bulb is out. And actually, LEDs don't really go out the same way a traditional light bulb goes out, because it's lots of little bulbs. And so what usually happens is it slowly over time, very rarely the whole system will go out. And that's actually a safety issue as well. So you get that benefit. No mercury with LEDs, no UV exposure. You can power them with solar and wind. So if you have in a remote location, you don't want to have to dig up a trench and run the wires out there like at a park. You can have cost savings just up front by avoiding those costs. And there are some existing specifications. Originally, it was just City of LA who had the specifications, and I know some of the other jurisdictions were sharing those specifications. There's now a U.S. Department of Energy municipal SSL, which is solid state lighting, which is another name for LED lighting, street lighting consortium, and they have online discussions and all the different specifications, and people are still using the approved products list by City of LA, which is testing products that meet minimum performance requirements. I just wanted to point out, here's an advantage. I don't know if you can see it so well in the light, but traditional street lighting is kind of yellow. And so it is a security issue, and people do not feel as safe in the yellow lighting. If there is a crime, you don't know what color the car was. It could be a white car, but it looks kind of yellow, or maybe it's tan, and so it creates problems. So generally, when they've been doing pilot testing of LED street lighting, they have found substantial positive benefits by surveying the community about how they feel about the lighting. Overall, you can upgrade your lighting. Alameda County did a lighting retrofit, and they saved about $350,000 a year, and they got longer lasting lamps, and they got low mercury lamps, and so they were able to have lots of different savings and environmental benefits documented. Water itself, it's a scarce resource, becoming more scarce, and there's also energy associated with the use and treatment, pumping of water. So essentially, you want to look at opportunities to save water. So water conservation, interestingly, some of the studies on energy conservation programs and climate programs have showed that they can actually save water at a save energy through water conservation at less expensively than they can by directly trying to save energy. And that's because if you save water, you get the water savings and you get the energy savings associated with the water. So here's one of my favorite factoids. Running hot water for 5 minutes is equivalent to running a 60-watt light bulb for 14 hours. So we really need to think about water, particularly hot water, and the amount of energy that it uses. So there is a certification, as we mentioned earlier, WaterSense. So there are certain fixtures, sink fixtures, toilets, urinals, etc. Now the one caveat with them is that they are tending to be products that are for the residential marketplace. They may not meet commercial building codes. However, you can, what we're seeing, we actually just did a water efficiency webinar, and what they generally are doing is they're setting their efficiency standards the same even if the products are not WaterSense approved. So if the efficiency standard is 1.2 gallons per flush, they'll still set that, but you just want to make sure with your vendors you know what the most efficient products are that they have. Purchase for zero waste. This gets back to the rapidly disposable issue that we talked about earlier. Avoid single-use disposable items, paper towels, food serviceware if you can. Go to reusables. Specify reusable and easily recyclable items and packaging, and Julie will talk a little bit about packaging, and buy recycled content products. All of this will reduce waste. Okay, so recycled paper, there are resources as well. This is a Conservatory's recycled paper guide, so you can look at the paper. It'll tell you how much recycled content it is, whether the virgin fiber was sustainably managed, what kind of bleaching methods were used, did they use chlorine-free bleaching, which is better for the environment, et cetera. So there are different resources out there. Reducing battery waste, as we talked about, lots of different applications. There are some projects that we have worked on with other jurisdictions. We have surveys that you could use to try to figure out where your battery usage is the greatest and where the opportunities are for, either replacing the equipment so it doesn't use batteries, or using either high power batteries that don't have to be replaced as often, or rechargeable batteries. There's some new types of batteries that have hold charges longer, so that might be an interesting project. So you want to factor in the battery replacement and disposal costs when you're ordering your equipment. Rechargeable batteries work well for many applications, not all applications. Rechargeable batteries are one of those things where they're improving all the time. Pilot test rechargeable long life batteries. Try these. There's some hybrid slow drain battery options, like the hybrid one there. It holds a longer charge. And if you have rechargeable batteries, there are industry financed recycling programs that you can just use for free. There was an interesting example with City of San Jose where they had paid to recycle a pallet of batteries from their airport, and they didn't realize they could have just sent it for free through the program. So you may have big swaths of rechargeable batteries for certain types of equipment. All rechargeable batteries can be recycled for free through the Rechargeable Battery Recycling Corporation's free program, and you can get boxes, etc. But it's not for the single-use regular alkaline batteries. Hand dryers versus paper towels. So you want to calculate your savings, and there are some calculators online to calculate how much money are you spending to purchase the paper towels and to also dispose of the paper towels in the waste stream, compared to high-efficiency hand dryers. So you want to look at the electricity costs, and so there may be some places where they make sense and some where they don't. This is another example of how you can make choices even on small things. Using these air dusters, they're not just air, they're actually fluorinated compounds. Some of those chemicals are actually being banned in the state of California because they destroy the ozone layer. And you can get other types of equipment that work similarly, and you don't have to replace them. They can work over and over again.